The waitress had only been working at the restaurant for a week, still learning the rhythms of the bustling dining room. To her, this day seemed like any other, a routine filled with presenting menus, taking orders, and delivering meals with a smile. As she approached a new table, she handed the menu to a guest who had just arrived and settled into his seat. The man was large, with a broad build that made the chair beneath him appear slightly small. The waitress, without meaning to, found her gaze lingering on him for a moment longer than necessary. She noticed his slight discomfort as he shifted in his chair, trying to find a position that accommodated his size. A fleeting thought crossed her mind, one she didn't bother to dismiss. His weight must be the reason. Trying to inject some humor into what she felt was a mundane day, the waitress allowed herself a laugh. It wasn't loud, nor was it kind. It was a chuckle that barely escaped her lips, but carried enough energy to ripple outward. Her thoughts, judgmental and light-hearted, became words before she could filter them. She pointed subtly in his direction, whispering to a colleague, thinking it would add a little spice to her otherwise monotonous shift. What she didn't realize was that the man, though seemingly absorbed in his menu, had noticed her reaction. His demeanor was calm, but his eyes betrayed a sharp awareness. He took in every detail, her whisper, the laughter, the gesture. Minutes passed and the waitress resumed her duties, assuming the interaction had gone unnoticed. She moved between tables, serving other diners with the same polished efficiency she prided herself on. The man remained seated, his face unreadable, until he finally rose and approached her. When she turned to face him, expecting perhaps a simple question about the menu or a request for the check, she was caught off guard by the serious expression etched into his features. His calm voice carried a weight she hadn't anticipated. "Excuse me," he began, his tone measured yet firm, "but I need to have a word with you." The waitress froze, her smile faltering. "Of course," she said, attempting to mask her unease. The man's gaze didn't waver. "I'm sorry, but I'm afraid I have to let you go." The words struck her like a bolt of lightning. Confusion washed over her face, and her mind raced to make sense of what she had just heard. "Let me go," she repeated, her voice a mix of disbelief and shock. "Why? What did I do?" "You mocked one of my guests," the man replied, his voice steady but devoid of malice. "And what's more, you laughed at me. That is something I cannot allow in my restaurant." The waitress blinked, her thoughts unraveling. "Your restaurant," she echoed, her voice trembling slightly. The man reached into his pocket and produced a business card, placing it delicately in her hand. "Yes," he said simply. "I'm the owner." The weight of his words sunk in all at once. Her face turned a deep shade of red as embarrassment coursed through her. The realization hit her like a wave. The man she had laughed at, the one she had dismissed as just another customer, was the very person who held her fate in his hands. Her mind raced to find a way to explain herself, to undo the damage, but it was too late. The man's decision was final, and she could see it in the resolute expression he wore. Without another word, he turned and walked away, leaving her standing there, frozen and humiliated. As the minutes dragged on, the waitress found herself replaying the scene in her mind over and over again. The shame of her actions and the swift consequences weighed heavily on her. She had learned a painful lesson that day, one that would stay with her for the rest of her life. Respect, she realized, was not optional. Every customer, regardless of their appearance or demeanor, deserved to be treated with kindness and dignity. The man, having left the restaurant, walked through the bustling streets of the city. His calm exterior belied the storm of thoughts swirling within him. He had built his restaurant on the principles of inclusivity and respect, and he would not allow those principles to be undermined, not by anyone. As for the waitress, the sting of losing her job was sharp, but it was the deeper realization that hurt the most. She had underestimated a man based on his appearance and allowed her own biases to guide her actions. That day, She learned that a simple act of thoughtlessness could have far-reaching consequences. Her story served as a reminder, not just to herself, but to everyone who heard it, that laughter at someone else's expense is never harmless. Respect, she vowed, would never again take a back seat to her fleeting impulses. Sometimes, life teaches us lessons in the harshest ways. For this waitress, the lesson came not only with the loss of her job, but also with a newfound understanding of the importance of treating every person with the dignity they deserve.